Hello and welcome back to another episode of Inside the Asperger Studios. Have you ever felt like you were stuck inside old patterns, fear, or conditioning? This conversation is just for you. My next guest is a master healer and co-founder of Seeds of Bliss. She helps people remember who they were before survival mode took over. With more than 10,000 sessions behind her, she shows us that true transformation isn't about avoiding the shadow, it's about learning how to dance with it until it becomes your strength. So sit back, relax, and grab your favorite beverage, and let's learn more about her. See you there, everybody.
I wanna believe in the truth, but only see what I'm shown. Got the freedom to choose, but can't decide on my own. Follow what the group is thinking, bottle up my intuition till it's popping up.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Inside the Asperger Studios. Today I'm joined with Annie. Welcome to the show, Annie.
Hi, Reed. Happy to be here and thank you for having me.
Not a problem. So, like I like to ask everybody on my show, tell me a little bit about yourself, and we'll get going.
Okay, here's my background story. Since I was a child, I was very intuitive, if I may say. So I was feeling things that were beyond the five senses, were not were not perceived by my five senses, and this was not very easy to communicate with people around me. And sometimes I found people were somehow freaking out by the messages coming through. So I had to step back and silence myself very often because what was natural to me wasn't natural to everyone around me. So I had to be silent. But the information kept coming. I couldn't help that. Um, so in my not so early adulthood, when my grandma passed, the floodgates opened in a very profound way for me. And I found my way to communicate what I was feeling with the people in my immediate environment and beyond. And this has been my superpower since then.
All right. So let's start off with you've done over 10,000 healing sessions and trained in more than 10 modalities. What originally drew you into the world of healing and transformation?
This is a very interesting story because I was feeling like I have a huge untapped potential. So I was very curious about knowing myself better, building more self-awareness. And I started with therapy, but it wasn't the right door for me to open. So I had to explore new ways to find myself, to find the way back to myself. So I tried healing. And this was a very profound experience for me because it really worked. Like it helped me build the bridge, open the door I was craving for. And this is how I started my personal healing journey about 15 years ago. And my first healer was also the person who kept um, prompting me to be trained to be a healer myself. So I went to this first healing training out of curiosity. And then things started unraveling by themselves without me putting any effort towards that direction. I never meant to be a healer. I never meant to be in the mental health business myself.
Mhm.
But it happened.
Now, was there any particular moment you realized this is my path?
Yes, actually, when people started coming to me as clients, because I was always discussing deep topics with my friends, but it was something very natural. It's my way of connecting with others.
Mm-hmm.
But when they started coming to me as clients, I thought, okay, maybe this lady, my healer, is right after all. Maybe I'm meant for this.
No. Did your earlier experience healing look different from what you do now?
Yes, what I received as healing was very different from what I do, because most people in the healing industry or in the mental health industry work with certain modalities and protocols
Mm-hmm.
that I chose to be trained in many different modalities because I kept hitting a wall with my clients' transformation. So there were glass ceilings to go through, and when we were hitting a glass ceiling, I had to bring in some new tools. This is why I kept training and training, and today I have my own healing modality. I brought together all the tools that I found helpful, and I found they were working well in terms of transformation and building self-awareness for the people I serve. And then I filled the gaps with my own experience. And this is how Awakening the Seeds, this is the name of my modality, was born.
Now, speaking of your own modality, you've created it, Awakening the Seeds. What inspired you to develop a completely new approach?
This this thing about hitting a wall, I wanted a more complete path,
Mm-hmm.
which would be flexible enough to serve every individual according to their own needs, and structured enough to secure the transformation, the results that we want to achieve for every person that comes to me. And I really wanted something holistic that addresses different aspects of the human existence and bringing down the barriers.
All right. Now, what gap did you see in healing the world that your modality fills?
It's all about bringing together everything that works. It's all about including the mental part of the human existence, the emotional part, the trauma work, the nervous system regulation, and making the human being the master of their lives again.
All right. Now, how does Awakening the Seed bring someone closer to who they are beneath fear and conditioning?
This happens by peeling the layers of societal conditioning, of educational conditioning, of generational conditioning. So we go through this process and we keep addressing every restriction, every burden that we were
Mm-hmm.
very meticulously conditioned to carry, as if we should do that, as if it's part of our identity, because it isn't. We deserve to be free,
Mm-hmm.
to be who we are,
Mm-hmm.
and to embrace our truth, to create a life that we choose for ourselves.
Now, you describe your work as living between life and death, light and darkness. What does the liminal space look like for you?
I had many experiences around death, and they were all transcendental. So, death for me became a portal of transformation because I felt like I was split in two parts. One half was always feeling the grief of the loss, and the other part was very sure that things are unfolding the way they should. So it's not only about losing someone or closing a cycle, because actually death is not only losing someone we love, but it's also losing parts of our identity, also leaving back spaces and habits that we have outgrown. So it's loss on one hand, and on the other hand, it's growth. It evokes growth. So life and death are, let's say, best friends. They
Hmm.
cannot exist separately. They always go together, and they go amazingly well together.
Now, is this a space you came to naturally, or did life force you there?
I think it was in my nature, but through those experiences, which were very intense, I realized that this is my nature. This is what I naturally embody. And I can talk about it, I can teach about it, I can hold people through those transitions that that maybe feel heartbreaking.
Now, what do you wish more people understood about the shadow side of healing?
This is my favorite part of healing, actually, the shadow part. Um, because there's an obsession in the healing world about love and light and how we are only light and only love. And I do not agree with that at all. Because if we only accept our light, then we deprive ourselves of our true potential, which resides in the darkness. We are 50% darkness and 50% light. We cannot exist by repelling 50% of ourselves.
Hmm. Now, you've said that our obsession with love and light has caused us to lose the wisdom held in darkness. Can you explain what you mean by that?
It's an obsession, as I said, and it's another manifestation of how things should be or how things are supposed to be. So it builds an illusion that we should be only occupied with our light. We should only work on the side of light. But if we want depth, if we want wholeness, we have to visit the dark side. Imagine human beings like trees. You have the branches and the leaves, and they live in the light. But then the roots, they live in the darkness. And if you want the tree to grow and thrive and offer you juicy fruits, it has to grow thick, healthy roots. And roots are always in the darkness. So if we want a relationships, a steady relationship with ourselves, we have to visit the dark side. This is where we grow. This is where we cultivate the foundation of our existence. Otherwise, we're we are very unstable in so many ways. We are always anxious. We cannot embrace uncomfortable situations, unpleasant emotions, because they weren't supposed to be there. They weren't supposed to happen to us.
All right. How do we recognize when we're using love and light as bypassing rather than healing?
It's very easy, actually. It just takes some training, some um, some experience, and some practice, of course. We can understand that when we start denying our inner reactions to what is happening around us, when we start expecting ourselves to always be super calm, super collected, to have everything under control, to not feel angry or frustrated
Mm-hmm.
or anxious. This is how we get to bypass trauma and actually life.
Now, what's one example of the kind of wisdom you've seen emerge from the shadow work?
It's true stillness, being comfortable with the uncomfortable emotions, the uncomfortable situations, giving yourself time to respond instead of immediately reacting to things. And reaction doesn't have to be like something intense, moving outwards like anger or yelling or quarreling. It can also be suppression. And this is actually a worst form of reaction because it builds tension inside the body. So let's say my boundaries get crossed. I naturally feel angry, but because I'm a light being and a light worker, I shouldn't be angry because I know better than that. So I suppress the anger, I deny it, and it gets stored in my body.
Now, you call yourself an ego death doula, which is such a powerful phrase. What does that role involve for you?
Ego death is a big part of my life, and it's the most transformational thing that has ever happened to me. It's all about living back parts of ourselves, habits, identities that are actually prison.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, let's say, the good person conditioning. I'm a good person, so I do not get to say no. I have to always say yes because I care for others, because I want to see them happy. But this is not the case. If saying yes to someone else means that I have to say no to myself, then I have to say no to the other person.
Now, how does guiding someone through ego death differ from traditional healing or therapy?
It's a very deep process. And in order to get there, you have to start understanding how you function in terms of thought patterns, in terms of emotional patterns, in terms of behavioral patterns. So it brings together everything that happens internally and externally. And you become more and more conscious, more and more aware. And then you're free to choose what you will do in any situation. You're not bound by
Mhm.
conditioning. You're not bound by roles. You're not bound by rules anymore.
Now, what's the most common misconception people have about ego death?
We'll have no desires left, which is not the case. Desires may change as we evolve, but ego death is not depriving us from our desires. It brings forth our truest desires and it gives us all the tools and the ways to fulfill them.
Hmm. Now, you are also a co-founder of Seeds of Bliss. What was the vision behind creating that space, if I may ask?
Yes, Seeds of Bliss is a very interesting concept. It's a movement actually, and I have co-founded that with my husband, and it's a legacy. Our intention is for Seeds of Bliss to outlive us and be a foundation for the generations to come in order to build something bigger when the time comes for them. So Seeds of Bliss is all about bridging the opposites, death and life, light and darkness, mind and emotions. This is the core idea, and also cyclical living, bringing humans back to their natural pace, to their natural rhythm, without having to be stuck in this inner way of living that is now crumbling in the Western world, and it has caused so much depression and burnout and mental health issues and
Mhm.
anxiety.
Now, what kind of bliss are you helping people grow? And what does bliss mean to you?
Bliss is a state of being, and it's all about being able to understand who you are beyond the situations, beyond the circumstances, beyond what has happened to you. So you become again the master of your
Mhm.
life, the creator of your life. You're not the imprints that you carry. You transmute them into wisdom, and then this wisdom is integrated in your everyday life. You're not triggered anymore. You don't take things personally anymore. You can be really compassionate with yourself and others. You can be really connected to your truth, and you can be safe being yourself and give permission to everyone around you to be safe also.
Mhm. All right. How do your teachings there differ from your one-on-one work?
One-on-one work is very specific and tailored to each person's experience. And group work is about addressing collective issues.
Hmm.
And it's very interesting because groups are never formed randomly. People come together in a group, and as time goes by, they understand how many things they have in common, which is very interesting.
I mean, that's such a powerful statement, and people don't realize it is you're attracted to the group because it's something that holds your interest. And I mean, I've had an actual experience like that where I went to a conference and I thought I was going to be this quiet little person, not talking to anybody, but I was like talking to everybody. And I wound up talking with one of the founders of the conference, and I'm like, I never thought in a million years I'd be talking to so many people and having a good time. And he's like, that's because you're in a place where everyone shares a common interest. And it brings that out of you.
Exactly, the vibe of tribe, the sense of belonging,
Yeah.
the sense that you're safe to share because they get you.
Hmm. Now, you said that the real holiness is staying in the light. It's learning to dance with the dark and rise through it. What does that look like in practice?
Dancing between shadows and light is actually mastering life because shadow and light always coexist.
Hmm.
And our shadow parts are there for a reason. So, a shadow part could be anything. A shadow part can be taking things personally. But when you manage to understand what is happening to you and why this is happening to you, you're not the victim anymore. So other people's behavior is all about them all of a sudden. It's not all about you. You're not offended, you're not triggered, you start becoming reactive and you're more connected. You feel more calm, if I may say, but not in a way that you are quitting.
Hmm.
You just save your energy and your resources for what is really important to you.
I mean, that's such a very powerful statement. And I mean, we've talked about this briefly, and I wrote a whole thing about the dark and the light. And people don't realize it that early on, they think, oh, I want to stay in the light forever. But that, like I said to you, that pendulum swings, it goes into the dark. But what people don't realize is your family, your friends, and everybody else that's your light. That's that light that's shining on your pendulum. So when it swings back, that's when your happiness happens. The dark will always be there. It's the lessons you learn from the dark you take to the light and you use it to make yourself a better person.
Exactly. You cannot just be in the light. It would be boring,
Hmm.
it would be stagnant. It has no creation, every idea, every manifestation is happening in the dark, in the void.
Hmm.
Nothing can grow just by being abandoned in the light.
I mean, if you think about it, people don't realize that there needs to be balance no matter how you look at life. There needs to be good for bad. There needs to be dark with light because you just can't have one because what's going to keep the other in check?
Exactly. Everything is organized in duality. It's the way we function as human beings. It's the way of nature too. There's day and night. There's winter and summer. And there's a reason for that.
Hmm.
We cannot live in eternal summer.
Now, is there a moment in your life when you truly had to dance with the dark?
Yeah, many moments. One of them was when my grandma passed. And the night before she died, I kept waking up because I was dreaming of her dying.
Mm,
And I had to sit with that until the morning came. And around noon, my dad called me to inform me that my grandma was finally gone.
oh,
So I had to sit with that knowing, I had to sit with that feeling. And it wasn't pleasant, of course. It was painful because
hmm.
I could understand what is going to happen. But I had no choice but let life do its own thing.
I mean, I experienced that same thing in such a way. My father had been diagnosed with cancer, and we were all at the hospital, and it was late, and I was tired. And so I decided to go home with my nephews, and I could not sleep at all. I would be up I would get up and because my mother and my brother and sister-in-law were at the hospital, so I'd be up every hour or so checking in on my mom. And then I fell asleep eventually, not sure what time. And then in the morning, they came home and my mind didn't register it that she was walking with a box of Kleenex in her hand, and that told me he had passed. And my heart just, as you felt, your heart just drops.
Exactly, drops or is shattered. Like there's a hole all of a sudden on the inside, and you're not sure what will happen with that hole
Mhm.
or how to fill it up.
Now, what was the first step for someone who's terrified of facing the shadow?
The first step and the easiest one to take is to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Slow down, stay in stillness. Be aware of what is happening on the inside. What am I feeling right now? This is the question. At first, we have no clear answer because we're not used to that.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a whisper, and then there's a voice, a very clear one. And this is how the bridge is being built piece by piece to meet the shadow. It's not about dropping yourself in the shadows overnight. That couldn't work.
Now, how do the concepts like ego death, shadow work, and deep inner healing connect to leadership in today's world?
Oh, well, that's very interesting. What I see today in the world is that shadow is emerging to be met. And this is natural. This is what should be happening. Because for so many years we have been ruled by the shadow which was hidden.
Mm-hmm.
But now it is rising to be met. And when the shadow is ready to be revealed, it is also ready to be included and be seen, understood, be embraced. Denying shadow and behaving like it doesn't exist is having us chasing our tails.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is in vain, everything that we do. But when we embrace the shadow, we can work miracles. And this is how leadership is also shifting these days.
Now, have you seen leaders transform after embracing their shadow?
Yeah, many people. I've seen spiritual leaders, I've seen uh, businessmen and businesswomen, I've seen people with serious financial issues embracing their shadow, and suddenly everything shifts in their reality. And it's not only about leadership in terms of politics or famous people. It's about everyone, because each and every one of us is a leader in their lives. So we are self-led. So practically everyone is a leader.
Right. Now, what qualities define an evolved, embodied leader?
First of all, integrity. Integrity, honesty, compassion, inclusion, wholeheartedness, and willingness to do good.
Right. Now, you talk about bringing your raw, embodied understanding into conversations about creativity and human evolution. How are these linked to you?
Embodied to me means that it is integrated in the way you live your life.
Mm.
So if we talk about creativity, this is my way of living. And creativity is not something abstract or something vague or something very artsy. It's something very humane. Creativity is all about creating friendships, all about creating your business, maybe writing a book or cooking a nice meal and having friends over. Creativity is when you have any idea and you manifest it. you bring it into the material world, no matter what it is.
Now, does creativity require touching the shadow?
Yes, exactly. Because without touching the shadow, you're not available to the ideas. We have ideas. Some people have ideas, not everyone. I used to think that everyone has a whole bunch of ideas haunting them inside their head, but that's not the case, as I learned later. Um, but in order to be available for those ideas to come to you, you have to touch your shadow, and you have to learn to stay still in the shadow, in the darkness.
Okay.
This is where the ideas reach out to us. I do not believe that we produce ideas out of nowhere. I believe that ideas fall into our heads when they find available space. Our ideas are choosing us because they want to be created, manifested by us.
Now, how do you see humanity evolving as more people embrace their deeper work?
I think this is a very interesting era to be alive on this planet because things are shifting. People grow more and more conscious and aware of what they can do, what they can create individually and collectively. So I believe that we are about to go through a threshold where we are more heart-led, we are more practically awakened. We understand that what's best for the collective is also best for ourselves because we are part of that collective.
Mhm. Now, after 10,000 sessions, you've likely witnessed transformations that most people wouldn't believe. What was one that still stays with you?
I have witnessed many interesting transformations. And if I get to choose one, that would be a professional athlete that came to me after a severe injury. He was never supposed to return in the sports field again, but he got back fully functional after 6 months. Of course, he was doing everything else that he should do, but still, his doctor was amazed by how quickly he was recovering and how he was able to be fully functional again. Because whatever is happening in the body is just an imprint of what is happening in our minds, in our emotions, maybe an imprint of a trauma.
Now, what made that moment so impactful?
It's always a challenge for me when I have clients that are terminal cases, women that are not supposed to get pregnant naturally, uh, people that have serious health conditions and they're not supposed to be healed and they're not supposed to have a good quality of life ever again. This is very interesting for me. Or even people that encounter the same unpleasant and traumatic situations over and over in their lives, and they are clueless about how to get rid of these painful circumstances. It's very challenging for me to break this cycle, to help them free themselves from whatever is burdening them.
All right. Did it change your understanding of healing?
The first experience that changed my understanding of healing was in my early steps, when I had a woman that was suffering from multiple miscarriages. And then we cooperated with her doctor and we managed to have her deliver naturally a very healthy baby. And this was the first moment that I understood, hey, we can do everything. We just have to go deep in ourselves and rewire the system and remove blocks, remove imprints that were never meant to be there.
Mm-hmm. Now, many neurodivergent people experience deep emotional intensity, masking, or living in survival mode. How does your work speak to those experiences?
Neurodivergency is a very common thing these days, and I think it's part of our evolution. So we evolve that. The system we are living into is not evolving accordingly. It's not following the changes.
Mm.
So it's very normal for neurodivergent people to experience this kind of tension. And it's all about learning how to self-regulate, learning when you have to withdraw and keep space and time for yourself to replenish, to bring your focus back to you without having to constantly um, internalize different stimuli. This is excruciating, especially with social media, with doom scrolling.
Now, have you noticed patterns amongst neurodivergent clients when it comes to shadow work?
Yes, and it's very interesting because those people are even more open to understand themselves because they already have difficulties in their everyday life that are not perceived as normal by the masses. So
Mm-hmm.
they feel that something is different about them and they are searching for their identity and how they can self-soothe, self-regulate, how they can understand their functionality. They are very receptive people.
Now, what tools or approaches resonate with them most?
For those people, it's very critical to help them first understand in the mind what is happening and then step into healing. This works for the vast majority of people also, but they have a very unique way to bring the pieces together. Like it's easier for them to understand shadow work. It's easier for them to understand what is happening because they are already searching. And also mindfulness techniques and nervous system regulation techniques are also working very well. And what I have been told many, many times in my healing path is that my voice helps them a lot.
Because I think that's because your voice is very soft. It's not high pitched or it's not deep. It's like right there in that level where it's easy to listen to and it helps us focus because it's something that doesn't irritate.
Yeah, I believe so too. But the first time I heard that, I was like, wait, what? I hear my voice all the time, I take it for granted. It's nothing special for me, but it's very interesting to to witness other people's experience around that.
Now, you help people remember who they are beneath fear and survival patterns. What's the biggest thing people realize when they finally meet their true self?
That they are free, that I have been living in a lie for so long. And the first moment that this happens is a moment of death.
Hmm.
So the lie is crumbling, a rupture is created in their reality, and they feel shocked. But it's a nice kind of shock because you already have taken glimpses of what is happening on the other side.
Hmm.
So they are literally free. They are not engaged anymore. They can choose for themselves, and they are free to change their career. They are free to end a relationship. They are free to set boundaries.
All right. Now, what part of ourselves do you think people abandon first?
When they start healing,
All right. Um,
I think they get rid of the suffering
mm,
first because they start understanding why this is happening, how this is wired, and they start experiencing things differently
no, why is it hard for us to trust our own inner wisdom?
because it's been silenced. Since we were kids, we are never educated around that. Um, we are only cultivating our mind. We
Hmm.
are consuming knowledge and we are building an overgrown mental body, but there's no room left for feelings, for emotions, for experiencing life. We are constantly analyzing things. And then the door to this
Hmm.
inner voice is closed. It's like a good friend. If they're trying to reach out to you and advise you and protect you, and you never listen, they will eventually stop. So
Hmm.
we have to open that door again.
Now, once someone meets their shadow and begins the transformation, what does integration look like for them?
The integration is only realized profoundly and very clearly when they find themselves responding differently than they used to. So when something happens and they have a totally different behavior, they choose differently, they behave differently, they decide differently, they're not triggered anymore. And this is when they get the first shock about the
Hmm.
results. Like, oh, this is me. I used to be super upset because of these situations in the past. What happened now?
Hmm. Now, what makes integration harder than the breakthrough itself?
We are not trained to observe ourselves, and
Hmm.
integration is happening naturally, but we fail to see it. Um, Mostly, we understand it when other people start reflecting it back to us. You have changed. You seem more happy. You're glowing. Your face is glowing.
Hmm. Now, how do you guide people through the after stage?
The after stage,
Mm-hmm.
around death, around what?
Around, I mean, after transformation, I get.
Oh, okay. Um, Usually when we have the results we want and people are happy, we maintain a connection so that they can feel safe. They move into group work mostly, because they can find their tribe, their community over there, and they are also safe that they have already built a therapeutic relationship, a healing relationship that is always an available channel for them. When something hits hard, they can get back to the healing room.
Now, after all your work is done, the healing, the transformation, the shadow work, what lesson has shaped you the most?
Actually, the lesson is again about life and death and how they are moving together in in a parallel way, always. They cannot be separated.
All right. Has the lesson changed how you move through your own darkness?
I believe this is the same lesson for me. I I have encountered all kinds of death unless I get to invent a new one. And this has made me comfortable with my darkness.
Hmm.
Actually, for me, the darkness is more of a sanctuary these days than something to avoid. It's not like only part of my existence, it's my home, my playground, where I go to soothe myself and relax and find tranquility.
And finally, where can people find out more about you and this fabulous work you do online?
They can find me through social media under the handle of Seeds of Bliss on Facebook, on Instagram, mostly on TikTok, on YouTube, and also on my website, seedsofbliss.life.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Reed Miles. That was Annie, and I'll see you in the next one. And remember, you're never alone. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you.